Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious and merciful, we indeed thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it indeed pleases us once again here at Ar-Risaalah Publications to have within our midst our teacher, Ustadh ādh Taqweem ta'ala, to bring to our hearing and to please and to delight our heart with such a glad tidings with the lecture entitled Al-Isti'dad li Shahr Ramadan, preparing for the month of Ramadan, which is dated on Yawm al-Jum'ah, the 17th of March 2023. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid Ustaz as he delivers this glad tidings, inshallah, to everyone who is listening. فتفضل شيخنا مشكورا محجورا مصدر ابن منصورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So it pleases me once again to be able to join our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you all success. Today's kalima, as you have heard, is regarding the month of Ramadan and our preparation for the month of Ramadan. Perhaps the first thing we can mention is something that Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned about how time passes by with such speed. How time passes by with such speed. He mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. In this section of the Quran, Allah tells us that indeed the number of months with Allah is 12 months in a year. So it was ordained. This is how it was decreed by Allah on the day when He created the heavens and the earth. 4 of them are sacred. That is, of course, the first, the 7th, the 11th, and the 12th. That is the religion of Allah, the right religion. So do not wrong yourselves therein. And then the ayah continues. Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen says, based upon this ayah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has arranged this time upon days and months and years. And these days and nights are stages the creation passes through, stage by stage, to the hereafter, to the abode of eternity, either in paradise or hell. And so these days and nights are stages that we travel upon day after day until we come to the end of the journey. And indeed, every day, in fact, every moment that passes you by, it is taking you closer to the end of that journey, which is to the afterlife. And so these days and nights are not to be wasted. And glad tidings to the servants of Allah who take heed and admonishment. They take heed and admonishment from the ever-changing and alternating way of this world and realize the great wisdom of Allah. As Allah said, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, there are signs for men of understanding. The point of this is that Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen was highlighting how quickly time passes by. And we realize that. Now that you see you are on the verge of this Ramadan for this year, and it feels like it was only yesterday that the last Ramadan was here. How quickly a year has passed by. How quickly the days and the nights they have passed by. As Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala also mentioned that this is one of the meanings of the hadith, that near to the end of time, when the day of judgment is getting close, then time will become short. It will become near each other and close to each other, to the extent that you pray the Jum'ah prayer today and it feels like it was just yesterday you were praying Jum'ah last week, and before you know it, it will be Jum'ah of next week. Jum'ah to Jum'ah, how quickly it comes and goes, how quickly the next one comes. And the same with Ramadan to Ramadan, how quickly the days and the nights they pass by, and last Ramadan has gone as though it was just yesterday, and this Ramadan is already here. And so it is important for every believer to ponder and to reflect and think carefully about what they are doing with their time. What have you done in a year? A year that has passed by since last Ramadan to this Ramadan. What have you done with your life? What have you learned from knowledge? What have you memorized more from the Quran? What have you memorized more from the Hadith and the Sunnah? What have you learned more of the religion? What have you done? A whole year has gone from your life. That is the way that the time it passes us by. They say in Arabic, Al-waqtu kas-sayf, in lam taqta'hu qata'ak. Time is like a sword. If you do not cut it, it will certainly cut you up. Time is like a sword. If you do not cut it up, then the sword will certainly cut you up. Time will certainly cut you up. And so a person needs to ponder over that. Ponder and reflect as to how quickly this time passes by. And many of us, perhaps, we have reached the 40s and the 50s of your lifetime, and even those who are still in their 20s and 30s, you will remember like it was just the other day when you were 5 or 6 or 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And you remember your memories of what you were doing. And you remember the Ramadan when you were children. How quickly the days and the nights they pass by until we come to the final destination. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Every soul shall taste death. And so we must make sure that when these opportunities they come to us, like the opportunity of the blessed month of Ramadan, that we utilize it and we benefit from it, and we do not allow it to go to waste. That is why some of the Salaf, they used to make dua 6 months before Ramadan. 6 months before Ramadan, they would make dua to Allah. Oh Allah, let us live up until Ramadan. Let us experience next Ramadan as well. From 6 months before Ramadan, they would start making dua. Oh Allah, decree for us our lifespan that we can live to witness another Ramadan. And then when Ramadan would finish, it is mentioned for the next 6 months after Ramadan, they would be making dua to Allah. Oh Allah, accept the deeds and the actions and the worship that we did in this Ramadan. So they valued this month. They valued this month. And they knew of the importance of this month because it is a blessed month, no doubt. We know in the religion there are certain times and certain places that Allah has made blessed, that Allah has made Mubarak, with barakah in them. Certain times and certain places. As for the places, like for example Arafah and Muzdalifah and Mecca, they are blessed places. And as for the times, then from among them is this month of Ramadan. It is a time that has been selected as a blessed time. And we should be aware of the great wisdom that lies behind this month. It is not simply about experiencing hunger and experiencing thirst. It is greater than that. Because anybody can end up experiencing the hunger and the thirst, as the Salaf they used to say. أهون الصوم ترك الطعام والشراب. The easiest part of fasting is to stop eating and drinking. They used to say the easiest part of fasting is to stop eating and drinking. That is easy, everybody can do that. But then what is difficult about fasting? The difficulty, the Salaf used to say, is stopping your evil deeds. Stopping your food and drink is no problem, everybody can manage that. But stopping your evil from your evil statements and your evil actions, that is where the difficulty is. That is what requires ijtihad from a person. To prevent your tongue from speaking with any type of evil, from any type of lies or backbiting or namima, storytelling and tale carrying, from your actions falling into the haram, preventing yourself from those affairs. That is the difficulty, the Salaf used to say. That's where you need to make your ijtihad. So when you think about the month of Ramadan, do not think as the world, many of the people, the Muslims, they think that it is just about not being able to eat or drink, that we are going to be hungry for the day. We're going to have suhoor and we're going to eat at iftar. And the majority or many of the Muslims, that's what they think about in Ramadan. What are we going to eat at suhoor? What are the plans for iftar? Where are we going to meet? Whose house? What food? And we're going to be hungry during the day and thirsty during the day. This is all people think about. The suhoor and the iftar and the party at iftar time and get together in this house and that house. That is not the primary objective of Ramadan. So when a person is preparing his mind for this tremendous month, then make sure that your mind is not focused on the food and the drink and what you are going to eat at iftar and suhoor. That is not the primary focus. The primary focus is your actions and your deeds that you are going to do. The prayer that you are going to pray, the Quran that you are going to recite, the charity that you are going to give. All of these actions of righteousness and goodness, that is what your focus is upon. And that's why we know Allah has told us that this is the objective of Ramadan. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Fasting has been prescribed upon you, just as it was prescribed upon those who came before you, so that you may achieve piety. That is the key. That is where your isti'dad should be focused upon. That is where your mind should be focused upon, in achieving that taqwa, achieving that piety from the month of Ramadan, from your worship, from your good actions, from your righteousness, your Quran, your prayer, your fasting, your charity, hoping to achieve the taqwa, hoping to achieve the forgiveness from Allah, hoping to be freed from the fire, hoping for that goodness and reward. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, Man sama Ramadan imanan ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih. And in another one, Man qama Ramadan imanan ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih. And in another one, Man qama laylat al-qadr imanan ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih. Whomsoever fasts and prays with iman and hoping for the reward from Allah, then he will have his past sins forgiven. The scholars, they say, how do you know if your Ramadan was successful? You know if you carry on doing your actions of worship after Ramadan finishes. But if you stop all of your actions as soon as Ramadan stops, then that is a sign that you did not truly benefit from the month of Ramadan. So when you are preparing, you need to prepare your mind to be like the Salaf they were, to approach this month of Ramadan like the Salaf they did, knowing how much opportunity there is, how much benefit there is, how much reward there is, how much favor and virtue of Allah in this month there is. And that's why it says in one hadith, it mentions in a hadith that a person who fasts, he has 2 times of joy. لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتان يَفْرَحُهُمَا إِذَا أَفْطَرَ فَرِحَ بِفِطْرِهِ وَإِذَا لَقِيَ رَبَّهُ فَرِحَ بِصَوْمِهِ. There are 2 times when a person who is fasting experiences joy and happiness. One of them when he opens his fast at iftar time, and that is because he is so grateful to Allah that he managed to complete that day of fasting. He managed to complete that great act of worship for Allah, and he made it all the way to iftar time. He is so happy because he made and managed to finish that act of worship for that day. So the believer feels happiness and joy knowing that he has completed that day of fasting, and every day at iftar time he feels joy and happiness that Allah made it easy for him to complete another day of fasting. And the second time a person feels the joy is when you meet your Lord in the afterlife. Because the reward for the people who fast sincerely is a tremendous reward. It mentions in one hadith that on that day it will be said, Aina Sa'imun, where are the ones who fast? ليدخلوا الجنة من باب الريان الذي لا يدخله أحد غيرهم. Let them enter paradise from the gate of Ar-Rayyan that no other person enters in from except them, except the ones who fast. And so there will be a great joy for those people on Yawm al-Qiyamah when they meet their Lord, for the great amount of reward and the tremendous reward that they will receive on that day. So these are important times. These few days now, a person must begin to mentally prepare himself. And part of that preparation is that you start doing your actions of worship now. If you are committing sins, then if you are sincere, stop them now. Do not say, I will stop when Ramadan comes. Who has told you that you will be alive when Ramadan comes? Stop your evils now and start performing your worship and righteousness now. That is the sign of the one who is sincere. And so, these few days that remain, a person begins from this moment, begins in seeking forgiveness, begins in repenting for his sins, and begins with his worship and righteousness. And then when Ramadan comes, he utilizes that opportunity in increasing with his deeds, increasing with his prayer, focusing on the Quran, and the Quran is a great focus of the month of Ramadan. They say that some of the Salaf, including Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, when they used to lead the Taraweeh prayer, they used to recite 10 juz every night. So every 3 nights, they would complete the Quran. When Al-Imam Al-Bukhari was leading the prayer for Taraweeh, he would do that, it is mentioned. He would finish the Quran every 3 nights. So the people who prayed with him finished the Quran 10 times in Ramadan, praying behind Al-Imam al-Bukhari. He would finish it every 3 nights. And then personally, he would finish the Quran once a day. Meaning Al-Imam al-Bukhari, they say, would finish the Quran 40 times in the month of Ramadan. And that is not unusual. Many of the Salaf, they used to finish it on a daily basis, every 2 days, every 3 days. So a person focuses a lot on the Quran in this great month. That is a short reminder regarding this month of Ramadan and regarding how we need to focus on our time and make sure that we do not let this month, the days and the nights, slip by us and pass us by without any benefit. Rather, we focus on achieving that taqwa from this tremendous month, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the best in our actions and deeds and to reward us for that we do them sincerely for His sake. That is what we'll mention as a short reminder. And before concluding, there are multiple questions that have been sent in. So we'll spend the next section of this gathering going through those questions and answering them, inshallah ta'ala, to the best of our ability. The first question here then, it says, if a menstruating woman becomes pure by noon during the month of Ramadan, can she continue fasting that day, or she would abandon fasting for that day? What is the ruling regarding this? So here then, it mentions this issue of a woman who is menstruating, but she becomes pure by noontime during one of the days of Ramadan. Meaning her period finishes at around about noon time, dhuhr time, during the day. Then can she fast for the rest of that day, or does she abandon the fasting? This particular topic actually has a difference of opinion between the scholars in it. There are 2 main opinions. Some scholars, they have the opinion that if a woman was on her period and then it finished during the day in Ramadan, that she must fast for the rest of the day. That is one opinion. And the reason why they give that opinion is because when her period has finished, she no longer has any reason to be missing fasting. Her reason has ended. During the time when she was on her period, on her menstruation, then she had a reason to not fast. It was impermissible for her to fast. But when she becomes pure, she no longer has any reason left. She is not on her menstruation anymore. She is pure. So some scholars say she has to fast for the rest of the day. From whenever she becomes pure, if she became pure at dhuhr time, then from dhuhr till maghrib she has to fast. If she became pure at asr time, from asr to maghrib she has to fast. Even if she became pure 1 hour after sunrise, then for the rest of the day she has to fast. That is one opinion of the scholars. The second opinion is that if a woman becomes pure during the day of Ramadan, she does not have to fast for the rest of the day. And that is because it will not count. Even if she fasts for the rest of the day, that day will not count. She will still have to make up all of that day afterwards. So even the scholars with the first opinion who say she has to fast for the rest of the day, They still say that it doesn't count. You will still have to fast a full day afterwards. So the second group of scholars said, in that case, what is the point for her to fast? It does not count for her. She still has to make up the full day again afterwards. So if she becomes pure during the day, the second opinion is she does not need to fast for the rest of the day. These are two opinions that exist. Allah Ta'ala A'lam, which is the strongest and more correct opinion. But a person can investigate into those. As Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen has spoken about the topic, as Shaykh bin Baz has spoken about the topic. The scholars have given many fatwa, so you can look into that situation, and it is one of those two. If you become pure in the day, either do not fast for the rest of the day because it doesn't count anyway, and the other opinion, you should fast for the rest of the day because you have no reason not to be fasting anymore, which is a good logic as well. And then at the end of Ramadan, you will have to make up that day according to both opinions. The second question says, if a woman fears for herself and her baby due to breastfeeding and does not fast, she has a lot of weight and it's not healthy, who is responsible for the fidya, the woman or the husband? Firstly, it is also spoken about by the scholars regarding the woman who is breastfeeding or pregnant. What is the ruling on such a woman? Is she allowed to simply give the fidya afterwards for missing those days? Or does she have to make up those days afterwards? That is actually a difference of opinion that exists between the scholars. Some scholars, they say a breastfeeding woman, a pregnant woman, she can simply give the fidya for those days and doesn't have to make them up. That is one opinion. The second opinion is no. She can miss those days but has to make them up afterwards. And the scholars, they give their reasons for that. The ones who take the opinion that she only has to give the fidya and she does not have to make up those days, they give some reasons, and there are some evidences like a narration from Ibn Abbas and another narration from Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhum. And some of the Salaf, they had that opinion that a breastfeeding or a pregnant woman simply gives the fidya for each day and does not have to make it up. But other scholars, and there are many of them too, other scholars, many of them, they say no. A pregnant woman does not give the fidya. A breastfeeding woman does not give the fidya. She has to make up those days when the pregnancy finishes and when the breastfeeding finishes. And they say because a pregnant woman is like somebody who is ill, somebody who is sick, or somebody who is traveling. What is normally the ruling if you are sick for a few days or you're traveling for a few days? You can miss those days, but then you have to make them up afterwards. They say a pregnant woman, a breastfeeding woman is like a traveler, is like a sick person. She is temporarily unable to fast, but afterwards she will be able to fast when the pregnancy finishes, when the breastfeeding finishes. She is not going to be pregnant and breastfeeding all her life. Eventually that will stop. So just like the traveler, eventually his traveling stops and he comes home. Like the sick person, eventually he becomes better and he can fast again for the one who is temporarily sick. So they say the breastfeeding and pregnant woman is like them. When her breastfeeding finishes, when her pregnancy finishes, afterwards, she can make up those days. So there are two opinions that exist about this topic. And I discussed these opinions in a video lecture that was done with Salafi Da'wah Lanks. And maybe inshallah during Ramadan we'll tweet that out again for those who wish to watch all of the opinions. But here the question was, who is responsible for the fidya? Let's imagine now a woman takes the opinion that it is only fidya that she has to give. Then who is responsible for it, the woman or the husband? It is the woman who is responsible for it. That responsibility is not upon the husband. He does not have to use his wealth to give the fidya on behalf of his wife. He does not have to do that. The woman herself gives that fidya. If the woman has no wealth, she has no wealth, then it is dropped. Or rather, it is postponed. If she has no wealth, then it is postponed. She doesn't have to give the fidya until she manages to find some wealth. And if she never finds any wealth, then the fidya is dropped from her. But it is her responsibility. If she has the wealth, she can give it. If she doesn't, then it is postponed until she gets some wealth. And if she never gets any wealth, then it is dropped from her. If the husband optionally chooses, volunteers to give that on behalf of the wife, that's okay. But it is not an obligation upon him. The third question says, is it better for a woman to go to the masjid and follow the Taraweeh Jama'ah prayers, or should she pray at home on her own at night? With regards to this, we know that it is better for a woman to pray in her home. It is better that a woman generally prays all of her prayers at home. The prayer of the woman at home is superior and better. لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله وبيوتهن خير لهن. Do not prevent the servants, the female servants of Allah from the mosque, but their homes are better for them. So the asl is that the home is better for the woman. But maybe there could be some reason why she needs to go to the mosque. Maybe she has not memorized anything and it is difficult for her to pray Taraweeh by herself, and she wants to go and pray behind the imam. Maybe that's the reason. If her husband allows it and there is no fitna and there is a place for the women to pray, then okay, she can go and pray, no problem. Maybe she wants to go because it strengthens her iman. Maybe it is better for her iman to go to the mosque and pray behind the imam and the recitation with the other women. Maybe that is better for her iman, increases her iman for her. Then okay, if the husband allows it and there is no other problem, she can go. So if there is a reason to go, maybe there's a class in the mosque. Maybe after Taraweeh, the imam is going to deliver a lecture. So she wants to attend that as well. So if the husband allows it, again, no problem. She can go to the mosque and pray and attend that. So if a woman wants to go to the masjid and she has fulfilled the responsibilities of her home and the husband allows it and she covers herself properly, all of those types of conditions are in place, then she can go to the mosque. She is allowed to go to the mosque and pray there. There is no problem in that. But if she stays at home and prays, that is normally the way for the women. That is the asl for the women. But like we said, there is no problem in going to the mosque if everything else is arranged. Next question says, my grandma isn't able to fast anymore, but some amount of money is paid to a person, i.e. the person uses the money to get food needed for iftar, as she doesn't cook her meals every time. Does this suffice as feeding the fasting person? You need to be aware, if somebody is old in age and they cannot fast anymore because of their health and because they are old in age and they are weak, then they have to give the fidya to feed a poor person every day, not just to feed a fasting person like the question says. You have to give that food to the poor person. And it doesn't matter if you give some money to somebody and tell them to go buy the food and give it to the poor person, that's okay. You are simply putting that person in responsibility on your behalf to go and buy the food and give it to the poor person. That's okay. This is tawkeel. You are simply getting someone to be responsible on your behalf. So that is okay. You can give the money to somebody and he can buy the food and give it to the poor person, not just any fasting person. Next one says, how does somebody go about fidya? We've just been talking about that now. You just have to give the food, a meal, half a sa', the normal food of the country for a poor person for every day that you miss. You find the poor people, the fuqara, the masakeen, and you provide food for them, a meal for them for every day that you miss. Is i'tikaf valid apart from observing it in the glorious 3 masajid? Once again, this is one of those topics where differences of opinion exist between the scholars. Some of the scholars, they say it is only in those 3 mosques. Only in the 3 mosques. Al-Aqsa and Al-Masjid Al-Haram and Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi. But the majority of the scholars, their opinion is that i'tikaf is permissible in all of the mosques, in any of the mosques. As long as 5 daily prayers are established in that mosque and the Jumu'ah prayer is established in that mosque. Because sometimes you get some mosques where they pray the 5 daily prayers, but they don't do Jumu'ah in that mosque. Everybody goes to a different one for Jumu'ah. You can only do i'tikaf in the proper mosques where Jumu'ah is being done as well. 5 daily prayers and Jumu'ah. Any of those kind of mosques, it is permissible to do the i'tikaf in. The next question says, what are the best ibadat that one can observe in order of priority? In terms of the ibadat, we know, of course, you have the pillars of Islam. The head of them all is the kalimatut tawheed. Tawheed, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. And then you have the prayer and the zakat and the hajj and the fasting. All of these are from the highest forms of worship. But Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, the best worship or the best of actions will be different for different people. For some people, certain types of worship, it is easy for them to do that. They can perform that. Maybe that's the best for them. For other people, other forms of worship are easy. Maybe that's the best for them. That's why you see many narrations saying, Afdalul a'mal, such and such. The best of the actions are, and then it mentions something in another hadith, the best of the actions are, and it mentions something else. And another one, the best of the actions are, and it mentions something different. Because all of that depends on different people. For some people, this is the best action for them. This is what increases their iman. This is what is beneficial most for them. And other people may be a slightly different action. But of course, in Ramadan, you focus on your prayer. You focus on your fasting. You focus on your Quran recitation. These are the types of actions to focus on. Next question says, if a person is eating and they hear the call for prayer but they haven't finished their food, should they continue eating until the adhan is done, or should they cease all eating and drinking immediately? When the adhan starts, if it is being done exactly at the right time, when you hear the adhan, then you do not carry on eating and drinking. If you have a glass of water in your mouth or something that you are already eating, you can just finish that bite off. You can finish off that bite and finish off that bit of water, but then after that you stop. You do not carry on eating all the way till the end of the adhan. When you hear the adhan, just finish what is in your hand or your mouth or the glass of water. You can have that sip, but then after that you must stop, not carry on all the way to the end, if the adhan is being done at the right time. Somebody asking in the next one, can breastfeeding mothers fast during Ramadan? And if we cannot, in some circumstances, should we fast the missed fasts or give 1 sa' to needy people, or should we fast and also give 1 sa'? This actually takes some time. Like I said, inshallah ta'ala, I will send a video recording that I did a few years ago. I will send it to one of the brothers here. They can forward it into your Telegram group or whichever group you have, and you can watch. It's a 30-minute video, about half an hour, and it explains all of those issues about the breastfeeding woman, the pregnant woman. Do you have to give fidya? Do you make up the days? It takes about half an hour to explain all of that. I will send the link to one of the admin brothers here, and they can forward it to everybody who wants to see that, inshallah. And the last one here says, does someone who subconsciously swear by Allah whilst lying liable to fasting 3 days consecutively for doing such? I'm not sure what this question means. Subconsciously swearing by Allah. Do you mean that in your mind you were swearing by Allah and then you lied? You didn't actually say it upon your tongue? In this kind of situation, there is no liability for fasting 3 days. You have to repent from making oaths in the name of Allah that are lies. You repent from that action, but otherwise it is not, in this case, a liability for fasting 3 days. Those are all of the questions that were received. That is where we will conclude for today then. وجزاكم الله خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى, until we meet again another time. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
جزاكم الله خيرا يا Ustadh for taking time off your busy schedule to attend to your brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely for the effort. Barakallahu feekum. جزاكم الله خير.
بارك الله فيكم. جزاكم الله خيرا. وفقكم الله.
آمين آمين وإياكم. أستودعكم الله الذي لا تضيع ودائعه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.